Okay, we're live.
Good evening, everybody. Al, could you start us off with roll call, please?
Benson.
Benson here.
Benson's present. Serta.
Serta here.
Serta's present. Fertig.
Fertig here.
Fertig's present. Hoffner.
Hoffner present.
Hoffner's present. Minor.
Minor present.
Minor's present. Moser.
Mosier here.
Moser's present. Schramm.
Schramm here.
Schramm is present. Weber.
Weber's present.
Weber's present. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, present.
Mayor Johnson's present. City Manager Leon.
Leon present.
City Manager Leon is present. City Attorney Denherter.
Denherter here.
City Attorney Denherter is present.
You have before you the minutes of the budget meeting of June 15th, 2020, as well as the regular meeting of June 22nd, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mosier moves the minutes from the budget meeting and the regular meeting. Benson seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion of the minutes? Al, roll call, please.
Weber.
Weber, aye.
Weber votes aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson votes aye. Serta.
Serta aye.
Serta votes aye. Fertig.
Fertig aye.
Fertig votes aye. Hoffner.
Hoffner aye.
Hoffner votes aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor votes aye. Moser.
Mosier, aye.
Moser votes aye. Schramm.
Schramm aye.
Schramm votes aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson votes aye. Motion to pass the minutes passes 9-0.
You have before you the schedule of bills. What is your pleasure?
Serta moves we pay the bills.
Minor second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion of the bills? Dave, anyone out there in YouTube land tonight? Are you covering YouTube?
I am. There are no comments via YouTube about the bills.
And any emails?
We are not covering emails for the meeting.
Okay, so is it just YouTube tonight?
Correct. YouTube in the meeting room.
Okay. Anyone in the meeting room who wishes to address us about the bills?
We have no one appearing to comment on this item.
Thank you, Dwayne. Roll call, please.
Okay, and this is roll call on the schedule of bills. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Serta.
Serta aye.
Serta's aye. Fertig.
Fertig aye.
Fertig is aye. Hoffner.
Hoffner aye.
Hoffner's aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor's aye. Moser.
Mosier, aye.
Moser's aye. Schramm.
Schramm aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson's aye. Schedule of bills passes 9-0.
City Manager's report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the Commission. A couple of things. Thank you all for agreeing to this hybrid format. I see the ladies there in the meeting room have their face coverings on and appreciate that just for those folks that are in the meeting room. So thank you, ladies. And also I think Dwayne and John are there, Chief Harris there to provide face coverings if we have guests and visitors at the meeting. When Ross reads the oath of offices tonight to the newly seated Commissioner Brunick and Maibaum and Mosier, I would ask that we all turn our cameras off and our mics off, of course, when we're not talking, but if all of us except Ross and those being involved are turning their cameras off, that way the public will see, just that. and get to see the folks take their oath of office. So if you would do that, I'd appreciate it. Sales tax, I won't talk a lot, but in case people missed it, our sales tax was was down for the month of June, 1.16%. That difference, though, for the year is still in the black, 2.91%. I do think we're going to start seeing a softening of sales tax. However, right now we are still in the black, so we're just kind of carefully moving forward. Triple B did much better than it did the month previous, so that's a trend in the right direction, but still negative for the month and negative there for the year. So hopefully things will pull up there. However, we know that with the many events and things that have been canceled, that may not be the case. That said, I think compared to a lot of the communities, we're still doing pretty well. I think part of that is our lake traffic and our tourism that we do have in our area. So we'll keep you posted and abreast of things that are going on there. Wanted to remind everybody that on Sunday, the 19th, this Sunday, there is a Back the Blue event at RB Burgers Bar and Restaurant. That is a opportunity for folks to come out and support law enforcement. It's running from 4 to 8 p.m. There'll be free food given away and opportunity to participate in some giveaways and drawings, and folks can buy t-shirts, as you know, to support local law enforcement agencies. So not just YPD, but also our other agencies in town. I believe I will have Colleen call a possible quorum, although no business will be conducted, as many of you may head out and have a beverage and say hello to some of our officers. So outdoor venues, so people don't need to be, too concerned about being close. There will be designated areas where you can consume alcohol, but there'll be space for people to mill around. So look forward to seeing some of you to support all the great work that law enforcement does in our community and in our state. Item number 5 on consent is establishing a public hearing for the sale of alcoholic beverages for Rock and Rumble. I don't think you need to act on that because Rock and Rumble has been canceled or postponed to a different day. I think probably canceled, but it's not happening on the July 27th of this year. So I think that we can cancel that event, or excuse me, that agenda item.
If I could interrupt just for a second here. Consent item number 5 is establishing the 27th as the date for the public hearing, setting the public hearing.
Okay, pardon me. I'm sorry. I'm looking at it wrong. And this is for Ribfest, not Rock and Rumble. So excuse me. Al is right. I'm wrong. That's my mistake for the year. So let's leave that on consent. I'm in cancellation mode and I got ahead of myself. I apologize. Let's look at item number 4 just briefly. I did not put a date on the agenda. However, I'd like you all to consider August 10th and 11th as the dates to talk about the budget. We cannot start early on the 10th because there's a planning commission meeting, but I would suggest that we try to keep our regular commission meeting abbreviated and then move into the budget presentation, and then move on to, if you need 2 days, starting a little earlier on the 11th, which is a Tuesday. So if you're okay with those dates, that's what we'll plan. We can certainly do it on the following Monday, but I hate to bring you guys back 2 weeks in a row if we don't need to. We're going to talk a lot about the budget on the 27th in your work session. So I think we're going to be able to have a fairly abbreviated discussion. So if that's okay with everybody, great. Otherwise, you could talk about a different day when you get to your consent items. The last thing I wanted to visit about is Commissioners Ferdig and Commissioner Hoffner, and just really thank them for their years of service on the commission. We've had a lot of big projects happen while both of you were on board. Both of you are highly involved, obviously, in the Huther Family Aquatic Center, the water treatment facility, lots of major changes. Jake, you were just instrumental with the recycling and moving towards single stream. We had to take a couple runs at that, but we did make that happen in the community. Chris, I always really appreciated your ability to look at more than one person's perspective. So always taking a chance to talk about putting ourselves in other people's shoes when we talk about rates and things of that nature. So I really appreciate that. Both of you guys being great advocates for sports and kids' activities. And I really appreciate all of those efforts. Jake, you've been on the commission since I've been on with the city. And I think my first day, we got lost on the way to Pier together. But at least over the last 8 or 9 years, we've been able to figure out how to get to Pier a few times, and even got me up in the air a couple times. So I know we'll still see you around, and you'll be involved with the airport. And Chris, you were so good at scoping out barbecue places with me in Austin and Nashville that now you're going to step into that yourself. So I'll be looking forward to seeing you in that realm too. So I just wanted to thank you, and I know the commission would share in my gratitude and just the honest, being honest when I say we're going to miss you from the commission. But I think we've got good folks coming in to fill in big shoes. So thank you very much. That's all I have for the commission.
That was well stated, Amy. Commissioners, any questions or comments for the city manager? If not, we will move on to public appearances, and we do have one scheduled public appearance, and that is Corey Pospischel, our new Human Resource and Employee Engagement Director.
Yes, I would just like to introduce you all to Corey and give Corey the chance to say hello and tell you a little bit about himself so you can see his face. We have overwhelmed him in the last 2 weeks, so hopefully he's not going to tell you all the things that we've been throwing at him, but I thought you'd like to get to know him and get to say hello to him as well.
Yes, good evening. Like Amy said, my name is Corey Pospischel. I'm happy to be a part of the city's team. Looking very forward to getting started. And she's right. There was a lot thrown at me. All of the directors on her team have been wonderful. They did ask one very similar question for the first week is, oh, you're back. And so that made me think that maybe there's so much work to do that they thought I maybe wasn't up to the challenge. But no, they've been wonderful to work with. It's really exciting. I'm just really great to, happy to get started. A little bit about my background. I have been in the human resources field for almost 20 years. I came from a local steel distributor in Norfolk, Nebraska, which is where I'm originally from. My wife lives with me here in Yankton, and we've been married 8 years. She's got her own business here in town. We're a blended family. I have 2 children, and she has 1. And so if there's anything that the commission needs from me, any questions that they would want to know on this call or on this video or after, feel free to give me a call. I'd be helpful or willing to help in any way I can help the commission. If there's anything else you'd like to know about me, I'm here to answer a question or two if you have it.
Well, Corey, welcome to the team. We appreciate the new dynamic you'll bring and the resource that you'll be for our employees and our leadership team. We know you have great things ahead of you that will lead to great things for our organization. Commissioners, anything you want to add or ask Corey?
This is Commissioner Sarda. Just like to welcome you to the city, working for the city, and maybe your commute will be a little less than it was in the past, but I think you have a lot ahead of you, and look forward to seeing you more often.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thanks again for introducing yourself, Corey. If not, this again is public appearances, so this is a time when people can address the commission about something that is not on tonight's agenda. Dwayne, is there anyone in the meeting room who would like to address the commission?
We have no one for public appearances at this time.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who would like to address the commission?
We have no requests for public appearances on YouTube.
All right. And we will move on to the consent agenda. Number 1 is establishing July 27th, 2020 as the date for the public hearing on the transfer of location of a package off-sale liquor license for January 1st to December 31st, 2020 from Patriot Express at 100 East 4th Street, and that would go to Patriot Express at 2217 Broadway. What is your pleasure?
Weber moves.
Schramm second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion on this item? Dwayne, anyone in the commission chambers who wishes to address the commission on this item?
We have no one appearing on this item.
And Dave, anyone on YouTube who would like to address the commission?
No YouTube comments on this item.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on consent item 2-1. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda's aye. Fertig.
Fertig, aye.
Fertig is aye. Hoffner.
Hoffner, aye.
Hoffner is aye. Minor.
Minor's aye.
Minor's aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier's aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Johnson is aye. Consent item 2-1 passes 9-0.
Number 2 under the consent agenda is consideration memorandum 20-129 recommending approval of an application for a peddler's license for Southwestern Advantage for a person to go house to house to sell educational books from July 19th to August 19th, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Sarda moves approval.
Weber seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item?
This is Commissioner Mosier. Is this the company that we had issues with before, or is this a different company that is now coming to us to do this?
I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear the questions, Commissioner Mosier. Al, did you hear the question?
I apologize. I couldn't quite understand it either. Once again, please.
We'll blame it on the mask. Is this a different company that is now coming to the commission to do this, or is this the same one that we had issues with in the past?
The answer to that is this is the same one in the past. The only difference is there's only one person that will be going door to door. In the past, we've had anywhere from 8 to 10. Apparently, they do a lot of their recruiting of students and/or youth from other countries, and they come in on a blitzkrieg, so to speak, to sell these books and stuff. And apparently, it'd be just because of the COVID responses and everything going on, they have had a very, very limited amount of people that are even available to do their job or to do their solicitations. So, but it is the same company that's done it in the past.
And then one more point of clarification. We still have in place then that they'll have to supply a picture and that we'll put that out on social media, that they will be going door to door?
That's what we have done. We started doing that last year, so I believe that Sue O'Grady, when she gets the license, she gets when they apply for the license, she gets a copy of their driver's license. So if they are approved tonight, we can put that on the social media and the image, the person's picture on social media, and then let the people know that they do have a peddler's license and they're authorized to sell books.
Thank you.
Commissioner Minor here with one question. We're in the middle of COVID this summer, and numbers are heating up all around. If we would need to, if it seems strange to have a door-to-door salesperson if all of a sudden our numbers start to spike. How quickly could we stop this if we needed to?
I mean, you could pull somebody's license for, if you wanted to. You could either do that at a regular commission meeting or call a special meeting. I guess, one thing we could say, we could adjust the posting to indicate, that they are door to door, and if, you're not comfortable with them, then you don't, with people coming to your door, you maybe don't want to answer the door or not invite them in or what have you. I'm guessing they'll utilize protocol with their company as well, to be considerate of others, but you could pull the license if you wanted to.
This is Commissioner Fertig. We've had complaints on this company the last few years in a row, have we not? Different people, but same company.
I think last year we were okay, but the 2 years previous we did. I think that's how it went. But yes, in the past, I think it has a nature of who is selling and how, maybe, for lack of a better words, aggressive of a salesperson they are. So there was some, folks feeling uncomfortable that their tactics were a little aggressive, I think was really the juxtaposition of the complaint. But you don't have to approve it either if you don't want to.
Did the company mention whether they're taking any precautions? Are they going to require this person to wear a mask, for example? I know that wouldn't be part of the normal application process.
Al, did you happen to have any knowledge of that? I did not speak with them.
I had no conversation. Sue did. I think they delved a little bit onto why there's only one person. So obviously they're quite aware of, what's going on around us and stuff. Whether they had any conversations about wearing a mask or not, I am not sure of that at all. So I can certainly stress to her when she contacts this company tomorrow that she insists that they do, but
I would feel more comfortable approving this if we told them their traveling salesman has to wear a mask. If everyone else feels the same way.
I would jump in on that and say, yeah, just follow the CDC guidelines. Maintain the 6 foot distance, wear a mask, and respect other people's space.
Any more discussion amongst the commissioners?
This is Commissioner Fertig again. We would have to add that into the motion to approve only if a mask is being worn, or is that something you can do administratively?
I'd let Ross weigh in if he feels different, but I think we can do that administratively.
Personally, if you want it as an official condition of the license, I'd feel a little better if you guys just voted to amend the motion on the floor and just add it to as an official condition of the license. Sorry, Al.
Can we require people to wear masks though, Ross?
You guys have that as your basic police powers.
Does anyone want to make that amendment, or do we just approve it as is?
Can we say adhere to CDC guidelines so that if the person was walking and was 20 feet away from somebody walking around the park, they would have the opportunity to speak without their mask on? I mean, situations present themselves differently. I just think the CDC has given really clear guidance. And so as long as they adhere to those guidelines, if you're standing at somebody's front door, of course, we want you to have a mask on. But if you're walking around Memorial Park, you could step off the path and have your conversation. Does that make sense? So I would move to amend the motion that we ask the salesperson to please follow CDC guidelines regarding social distancing and masks.
Whoever seconds that.
Quick point of clarification. Are we asking them or are we requiring them?
Require.
If we're asking, we don't need a motion to amend, but if we're requiring it, I think we do.
Are we, sorry, this is Commissioner Mosier, does that put us on a slippery slope? Because we're not asking anybody else to wear masks who are running their own businesses. So I guess I'm asking if that's a slippery slope in this situation, if we're asking one peddler to require to wear a mask when they're out in the public and we don't require others. I'm okay with if you want to recommend that they follow CDC guidelines, and if there's issues, we pull their license. I just worry a little bit about us micromanaging peddlers and others when not in city buildings.
And I get that, because it is a slippery slope. Do we know where this person will have been the week prior to them coming here? And if we do require this, do we have other companies that do door-to-door sales in town that come into our community just for a week and then leave?
We don't currently have anybody licensed to do door-to-door. It's certainly not required of any business that's already in town. You know, and that's because of state code and our code. So there could be other people going door-to-door, but we've not had calls on it or anything.
As sticky as it is, it seems to me that it would make sense to ask people that are going door to door in our community who are planning to make personal contact, and they've been somewhere else, who knows where, and then are coming here. It would seem like common sense to require the mask, but Ross, speak to us legally.
You can require. I feel very comfortable with the legality of conditioning the license on adhering to CDC guidelines or limiting it to masks. It's within your police powers to protect the public. I also understand the policy implications of, are you setting a precedent, or are you holding one company to a standard that you're not holding them all to? Now, that's a public policy consideration, and it subjects you guys to political criticisms. But there's nothing that says you can't do it. I understand the arguments both ways. Unfortunately, I can't say the law compels you to do one or the other.
So Ross, by granting them a peddler's license, aren't we kind of giving them the privilege of going in onto our citizens' private property and knocking on their door? To me, that's very different from a business that maybe people are inviting to come into their home or has a place that other people go to. That's where I see this as a different issue.
This is, excuse me, this is Hoffner. Hey, we've had complaints this company in the past, and it just seems a little bit like we have feeling a little bit like maybe we should this year, because of this epidemic, this pandemic, we should not allow them this year. I think we have perfectly a reason to, and to not grant it this year. And Al, did we have any complaints at all last year? I know we did, like Manager Leon said a couple of years ago.
I don't believe we did last year. A couple of years ago, I think we had a couple. Again, I think the complaint was of the more or less the aggressive nature of more or less, if not aggressive, high pressure, so to speak. But I only will bring up the point that I think Ross needs to weigh in a little bit. You have to be a little careful about what you can do to thwart free trade, so to speak. You have the ability by state law to regulate, but I think it might take a little different lead if you're saying, no, they can't do it. But Ross, I'm not a lawyer, go for it.
That's where I start to have a little bit of heartburn, Jake, because they otherwise meet all of the other criteria. So we're telling them, yeah, you meet the criteria, but we've just decided we're not going to let you do it this year because it might be dangerous. It's a little bit different than putting appropriate conditions on to protect the public. I'm not. I put it this way: this commission gave them a chance this last year, and I think they demonstrated that they could do it in a way that was more appropriate. They did so. To the best of my knowledge, we didn't get any complaints. Nothing's different than it was before, other than the fact that we have COVID. And there are other types of businesses that come for peddler's license that go door to door. Al, do you have an idea off the top of your head, some of the examples of other peddlers that go through town? I think some of them we'd be kind of shocked if we told them they couldn't. But I think if we're saying no to one, especially for this reason, you're really starting a precedent if you're telling them they can't do business. We get to be pretty arbitrary if we tell the others they can't also. Al, do you have an idea of the list off the top of your head?
I do not, other than I recall for sure that we've had some lawn service / tree trimmers go door to door. Boy, off the top of my head, nothing's coming to mind.
And when was the last time we approved one?
Of a door to door?
Yeah.
Boy, off the top of my head, I think this company last year.
Yeah, or that tree trimming company, Al, that you're talking about.
Yeah, did we approve a tree trimmer going door to door?
I think so.
That rings a bell to me. Wasn't there AT&T or maybe a cable service provider or something that had a license?
The cable companies all do. Both VAST / Nology / WOW, whatever it is now. And the other cable company also, I can't even think of it. They changed so much, but they always go door to door. I mean, that's continual.
I believe we do license them, for that purpose, don't we, Al?
No, because they're already a licensed business, so they're allowed to.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And Al, this is Commissioner Mosier, is that the same for like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and things like that?
No, I don't think we licensed the charitable or, you know, I mean, technically, should they be licensed? That'd be a question maybe for Ross, but I don't think we've licensed them in the past, nor do we license the football players when they sell the, you know, the coupon card or any of those types of folks.
I believe that the ordinance refers to businesses. It's the for-profit businesses, not fundraising exercises. You know, kids selling, you know, candy bars for whatever. I mean, that's a different beast entirely. It's not to say that they shouldn't also be being careful with the way that they do door-to-door operations, but we don't regulate that. But the long and short of it is, I've got some heartburn if we say no, because we better be committed to telling all door-to-door operators no while this COVID situation continues to exist. I think it's another thing to set appropriate limits on the way they conduct business in this climate, which is squarely within your police powers to protect the public. You guys still have the powers to regulate or completely shut down businesses, as we experienced throughout the month of April. You know, this is a much lesser version of that, but it's squarely within your powers to do so. You can tell them no, but I'm thinking you're shutting down the business of door-to-door sales entirely in town if you do that.
This is Commissioner Schramm. When we reopened businesses, it was my understanding we did so with the intent to suggest businesses follow CDC guidelines, but leave it up to the business to decide how they want to implement guidelines on the individual business. You know, when you think of the business we were talking about then, citizens were going on premises to that business, not vice versa. So, you know, at Nathan's point and to Amy's point, I don't see why this is a policy issue if we require someone who's going onto your private property to wear a mask, because as a private citizen, you are choosing to go into that business, into a Hy-Vee or Walmart, whatever it may be, and you're having the choice to follow their rules and also provide your own masks for your own protection. When they're coming door to door, that I feel that's a different situation altogether.
Any more discussion? Otherwise, we do have a motion and a second for the amendment, which would require that they follow CDC guidelines, as I think stressed by our staff. If not, Dwayne, is there anyone in the room in the commission chambers who would like to address the commission?
We have no one appearing to comment on this item.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube has some input on this amendment before we vote on it?
There are no comments on YouTube about this item.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on the amendment to require Southwestern Advantage to follow CDC guidelines when it comes to social distancing and wearing of a mask. And we'll start with Fertig.
Fertig, aye.
Fertig is aye. Hoffner?
Hoffner, aye.
Hoffner is aye. Minor?
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier?
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm?
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Johnson is aye. The motion to amend the previous motion and second passes 9-0.
And then is there any more commission discussion before we vote on the original motion as amended? Okay. Dwayne, anyone in the commission chambers from the public who would wish to address the commission on this?
No public comments at this time.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who would like to address the commission?
There are no YouTube comments on this item.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please. Al, I think you might be on mute.
How come nobody's answering me? Again, this is a roll call on consent item 2-2 as amended. Hoffner.
Hoffner, aye.
Hoffner is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye, I believe. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Fertig.
Fertig, aye.
Fertig is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Johnson is aye. Consent item 2-2 as amended is passed 9-0.
Thank you. Who would have guessed we were going to spend that long on that consent agenda item? Number 3 is setting the date of July 27th, 2020 at 6 p.m. in room 114 of RTAC for the next work session of the Yankton City Commission, and that would be to discuss the proposed budget. What is your pleasure?
Weber moves.
Sarda, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Dwayne, anyone in the commission chambers who wishes to address the commission on this item?
No public comments at this time.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who wishes to address the commission on this item?
No comments from YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
Okay, and this is roll call on consent item 2-3, setting this July 27th as the next work session for the City Commission. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson's aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Fertig.
Fertig, aye.
Fertig is aye. Hoffner.
Hoffner, aye.
Hoffner is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Consent item 2-3 passes 9-0.
Number 4 under the consent agenda is setting our budget workshop meeting dates for August 10th after our regular meeting, and if necessary on August 11th. And Amy, are you proposing a start time for that? Are you thinking 5:30?
5:30 if you need it. What I intend to do, Mayor, is on the 27th, we probably won't have the budget in its entirety ready for you yet. So I plan to make some presentations on some things to make that discussion on the 10th flow a little smoother. And then if you would like to continue the conversation, I would think we should do that earlier on in the evening, but that's for your pleasure.
Okay. Commissioners, any discussion on this item? Dwayne, anyone in the commission chambers who wishes to address the commission on this item?
Mayor Johnson, this is Commissioner Mosier. I'll make a motion to approve those dates and time.
That would help too.
Benson seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Dwayne, again, anyone in the commission chambers?
No
wishes to
additional
address
public
this?
comments at this time.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who wishes to address the commission on this item?
There are no YouTube comments.
Al, roll call, please.
Okay, this is roll call on consent item 2-4. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm?
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is I.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Fertig?
Fertig, aye.
Fertig is aye. Hoffner?
Hoffner, aye.
Hoffner is aye. Minor?
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Consent item 2-4 passes 9-0.
Number 5 under the consent agenda is establishing July 27th as the date for the public hearing on the request for a special events on sale liquor license for August 29th, 2020 from Rock and Rumble, doing business as Yankton Rib Fest, the block of 3rd Street between Cedar and Walnut, plus half of Walnut to the alley and half of a block north and south on Walnut and 3rd Street. What is your pleasure?
Sarda moves.
Schramm, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Dwayne, anyone in the commission chambers who wishes to address the commission on this item?
No public comments on this item.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube commission on this item?
There are no YouTube comments.
Al, roll call, please.
Okay, and this is roll call on consent item 2-5. Schramm?
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is I.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Fertig?
Fertig, aye.
Fertig is aye. Hoffner?
Hoffner, aye.
Hoffner is aye. Minor?
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier?
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Consent item 2-5 passes 9-0.
Moving on to old business, number 1 is consideration of memorandum 20-124 regarding the request for a special events on sale liquor license for July 24th from the Yankton Area Chamber of Commerce. And this would be for an event at the Yankton Rodeo Grounds at 404 Paddle Wheel Drive. What is your pleasure?
Benson, so moved. Weber, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion on this item? Dwayne, anyone in the commission chambers who wishes to address the commission on this item?
No one appearing to comment at this time.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who wishes to address the commission?
There are no YouTube comments.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
Okay, and this is roll call on. Hang on a minute here. Three 1. And I apologize, but I was missing my tally sheet, so I'm scrambling here trying to look up between 2 sets of papers. We'll start. So this again, commission or agenda item 3-1. And it's starting with Weber.
Weber, I.
Weber's aye. Benson.
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Fertig.
Fertig, aye.
Fertig is aye. Hoffner.
Hoffner, aye.
Hoffner is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Johnson is aye. New business item 3-1 passes 9-0.
Thank you. Number 2 under old business is public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 1035 regarding the truck route ordinance within the city of Yankton. And this would be setting 8th Street or reminding people that 8th Street is our truck route and not 9th Street, and putting up some signage. What is your pleasure?
Minor moves to approve.
Weber, second.
We We have a motion and a second. Ross, for the public's benefit, can you just remind them what we're designating here?
You bet. So there are very few streets in this community that have been built to be able to support the extra weight and traffic caused by large full trucks. Highway 52, however, being a state highway out to the lake, has been built to support truck traffic, and as a result, the city's map of truck routes available from the city's website does already mark that area as an unofficial truck route. However, because it's not officially a city truck route, we cannot appropriately sign the corners that would route trucks off of 4th Street after it turns into Summit as it curves to the north there, and then on to 8th Street out to the lake. And we've had problems and citizen complaints, and our police department has reported problems with trucks traveling down to 9th Street and jogging over on that street to reach Highway 314, headed out of town to the west. So in order to correct this issue and keep the trucks on the designated truck routes with the roads that are built to support that weight, we need the commission to take action to officially make 4th Street up to 8th on Summit and 8th Street from Summit to West City Limits Road as an official designated truck route. And then for those trucks that want to jog over to Highway 314, that one block between 8th and 9th Street on West City Limits Road would also be included. That road was built to support truck traffic in that block also. So that should correct the issue, and then the DOT will allow us to properly sign that route.
Thank you for that, Ross. Commission, any discussion on this item?
Other than lack of signage being maybe some of the reason why trucks were doing this, is there any other reason why these larger trucks would sometimes use 9th Street?
Straight shot, 9th Street. If you turn on 9th Street, it'll take you all the way out of town on 314. It's convenient for the truckers.
So it's strictly convenience. I didn't know if there was any, if they were having problems maneuvering in different areas. That's what I was told.
One of the other issues that we have with it is we've gotten a number of complaints from the residents on 9th Street itself because those trucks are using it heavily. Pardon me? Oh, this is Chief John Harris. You're right. They can't see me, thank God. But that's another reason that we want the change, so that we can stop the trucks from using 9th Street, because we have got a number of citizens' complaints.
Any further discussion? Dwayne, is there anyone in the commission chambers who would like to address the commission on this item?
No additional public comments in the meeting room.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who would like to address the commission on this item?
There are no YouTube comments on this item.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on old business 3-2 of the truck route ordinance. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda's aye. Fertig.
Fertig, aye.
Fertig is aye. Hoffner.
Hoffner, aye.
Hoffner is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber's aye.
Weber is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Old business item 3-2 passes 9-0.
Number 300, old business, is consideration memorandum 20-130 regarding ordinance number 1036, which is consideration of a rezoning from I-1 industrial to R4 multiple family residential on property at 1900 Locust Street, owned by Gary Howerlander. What is your pleasure?
Schramm, so moved.
Benson, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Dwayne, anyone in the commission chambers who wishes to address the commission on this item?
We have no one appearing to comment on this item.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who wishes to address the commission?
There are no YouTube comments on this item.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on old business item 3-3, Serta.
Serta, aye.
Serta's aye. Fertig?
Fertig, aye.
Fertig is aye. Hoffner?
Hoffner, aye.
Hoffner is aye. Minor?
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier?
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm?
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Old business item 3-3 passes 9-0.
Hey, Mayor.
Before we move on, yep, I'm good to you, Jake.
Yeah, my last chance to talk. I prepared a 5-page single-spaced letter I want to read now.
That's what we're all.
Hey, listen, the time's come. Thank you so much. I can't tell you how great a group you are to work with, the staff, the media, of course, and everyone. It's been my pleasure to serve this community, which I love and will continue to love and serve in some capacity, because it's easy to serve something you love so much. And I'll get a virtual hug later on from every one of you someday when I see you, maybe in December, but whatever. But thanks again. Hey, it's been a good opportunity, and I feel confident stepping aside, and it's my time to take a little rest. Thank you.
Commissioner Fertig, do you have any words of farewell?
Well, if I had a mic in my hand, I'd drop it, but I don't have my phone, and that's too expensive. So, no, it was a good time. It was a ride, and you know, I'm not worried about going forward. The leaders you guys have in place there, I mean, it'll be just fine.
Well, thank you both for your commitment to the commission and to the city of Yankton for these past number of years. You've both been great partners to all of us, great mentors, and we will certainly miss you. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add? We'll be giving you a virtual.
Yeah, providing the next item on the agenda passes.
True. We might hold you hostage for a while.
Just appreciate you guys being on the commission, get to know you over the last couple years, and Jake knew you before that through the airport, but I'm sure we'll see you guys around in the community, still being involved, so best of luck.
I see a commission road trip down to a certain barbecue joint at some point.
Well, good luck to both of you in your next adventures.
Mayor Johnson, if I may, I would like to ask a point of privilege from City Manager Leon. Can we please remove our masks while we do our oath so that I feel the people deserve to see us actually say the words?
Sure. That's fine with me.
Thank you.
All right. So can I get a motion to adjourn sine die?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Al, roll call, please.
Okay, and this is roll call on a motion to adjourn, however Nathan pronounced that.
I looked it up on Google today.
Okay. Fertig.
Aye.
I'm surprised. I expected a no there. Hoffner.
Aye.
That was an aye by Hoffner. Minor.
Aye. Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier's aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is I.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Johnson is aye. New business item 4 dash, whatever our number is. Adjournment passes 9-0.
And I will turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you. In absence of a mayor, I will call the meeting to order. Al, can we have a roll call, please?
Good to make sure my mic was on. This is roll call for the second session tonight. Benson.
Benson, I. Or here.
Benson is present. Brunig. Brunig.
Bruning here.
Brunig is present.
Yes, he is. Sorry, he did speak into the mic.
Sarda.
Sarda here.
Sarda's present. Johnson.
Johnson here.
Johnson's present. Mybom.
Mybom here.
Mybom's present. Minor.
Minor's here.
Minor's present. Mosier.
Mosier here.
Mosier's present. Schramm.
Schramm here.
Schramm is present. Weber.
Weber's here.
Weber's present. City Manager Leon.
Leon present.
City Manager Leon's present. City Attorney Denherter.
Denherter here.
City Attorney Denherter is here.
Okay, with a quorum present, we need to select a mayor for the 20. Yes, Rod?
We have to do the oath first.
Commissioners first?
Great idea. I'd like to hand the meeting over to our very capable city attorney, Ross Denherter, to conduct the oath of office. Let's the rest of us turn off our cameras so that the viewing audience can pay attention to the business at hand.
Okay, I would ask the commissioners in the chamber to, Ben, if you'd be willing, there you go. Now I can see both of you. Tony, you and I are on video, so I think it's probably better we don't stand up so we can remain in frame. But if you will all raise your right hand with me, please. And repeat after me, and I will do this nice and slowly so that any lag or delay doesn't mess us all up here, okay? So repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Tony Mybom,
Having been duly elected to the office of Commissioner of the City of Yankton, South Dakota, do hereby swear that I will support the Constitution of the State of South Dakota, and faithfully discharge the duties of my office as City Commissioner. Congratulations, Commissioners. I look forward to working with you for the next 3 years.
I'll let everybody get seated here again. Okay, now that we have our newly seated commission, and congratulations everybody, now is the time that we need to find a mayor for the 2020-2021 term to serve all of us in our community. So I would like to ask if there's any nominations from the commission for a mayor for the 2020-2021 term.
This is Commissioner Minor, and I would please like to nominate Nathaniel Johnson to be mayor.
And this is Commissioner Schramm. I would like to second that nomination.
There is a motion on the floor for Mayor Johnson, made by Minor, seconded by Schramm. Are there any other nominations for the office of mayor? Bell told me I need to ask twice, so I will ask again. Are there any other nominations for the office of mayor for the 2020-2021 term? Okay, hearing none. Al, do I need to get a motion for nominations to cease, or can we go ahead and vote?
You can go ahead and just vote as is now, so.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor by Minor and a second by Schramm to re-elect Commissioner Nathaniel Johnson for the office of mayor. Al, would you take roll call, please?
Okay, and this is roll call on the office of mayor. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Maibaum.
Maibaum, aye.
Maibaum is aye. Minor.
Minor is aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. And soon to be new mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Johnson is aye. Nomination of Johnson passes 9-0.
Thank you, everyone, for your.
Go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for your vote of confidence. It's been a challenging last 2 years with the flooding of spring of 2019 and this year, the COVID-19 pandemic. And I certainly hope there's not a new catastrophe ahead of us for the next year. We have enough on our plate. And I just appreciate all of your leadership through these challenging times, and look forward to us all working together to lead Yankton as best we can, despite all of the uncertainty we face. So with that, we will move on to new business. And number one is consideration of Memorandum 20-131 regarding assessment satisfaction and waiver of protest for future West 15th Street infrastructure improvements. And this is owned by the Larry Clark and Joan Clark Family Trust. What is your pleasure?
Sarda moves to approve the memorandum.
Weber second.
We have a motion and a second. Dave Mingo, could you just explain to the public what we're doing here?
Sure. Many times in newly developing areas such as this, we have instances where portions of lots that people want to develop on, in other words, somebody wants to build a house on the lot, say their lot is 100 feet wide, they buy an extra 10 feet from the developer, and so there's 10 feet of infrastructure not accounted for. What we do in those cases administratively is we as staff accept payment of an approximate amount or an amount based on what we estimate the cost of their obligation for that infrastructure will be. The commission typically never sees those sorts of small incidental administrative actions. In this case, however, as you can see from the map, the property is substantially incomplete as far as adjacent infrastructure is concerned. It does have a portion of it with complete infrastructure. And when I say it, I mean 15th Street to the west by the end of Dakota Street. You might remember we did a project there a couple of years ago, so we had a ready reference for cost of what that project would be. And we took that ready reference, 2-year-old reference, added a cost of living increase from it, and requested that the clerks pay that amount up front, and we would then produce a document and record it saying they fulfilled their initial obligation for infrastructure improvements at this location. The clerks did that. They paid in excess of $41,000 as a part of their submittal for this request. And therefore, with that having been done, staff is recommending approval of the proposed satisfaction agreement.
Thank you for that explanation, Dave. Commission, any further discussion on this item? Dwayne, anyone in the commission chambers who wishes to address the commission on this item?
We have no one present to comment on this item.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who wishes to address the commission?
There are no YouTube comments on this item.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
Okay, and this is roll call on new business item 4-1. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom?
Mybom, aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor?
Minor's aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier?
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm?
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-1 passes 9-0.
Thank you. Number 2 under new business is consideration of memorandum 20-128 regarding change order number 3 to the Healer Family Aquatic Center. And that consists of a proposed sign at the Douglas Avenue entrance that would cost $28,611 and a design modification to a steel beam in the mechanical building at a cost of $443. What is your pleasure?
Weber moves.
Minor second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion on this item? I would just say, looking at the proposed sign design, I discussed with the city manager some suggestions I would have for maybe tweaking that. I don't know if anyone else feels that we could use some adjustments too.
Thank you, Mayor. We did not include the design, the schematic of the design for the public's consumption at this point. We have as many of you know, an agreement with our naming right contributor, and the design of sign and logo must be collaborated with that individual. So everyone knows that's the Mike and Cindy Huther Family Foundation. So while the logo is the logo that was collaborated with the Huthers on the sign, for the facility, we have not discussed the design of that sign. So I am still happy to take some comments as I've shared that as a working document with you all. However, we want to, collaborate with the Huthers on what that final look is. You do have the final say, i.e. the city has the final say on the design of the sign. But we didn't want to get too far into detail without knowing if that was something that the commission was interested in having at the facility. It was a part of the initial design when the cost estimates started to look high. That was something that we initially cut out, but feel it's an important part of the design overall and of the facility.
Commissioner Mosier here, City Manager Leone. So if we approve this memorandum tonight, does that basically say that even in talks with the Huther family, that will be the maximum price for that sign?
Barring any additional change order, that's all we would be able to spend, correct?
Any more commission discussion? If not, Dwayne, is there anyone in the commission chambers who wishes to address the commission on this item?
No public comments for this item.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who wishes to address the commission on this item?
There are no YouTube comments on this item.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
Okay, and this is roll call on new business item 4-2. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda's aye. Johnson, I'm sorry, Mybom.
Mybom, aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor's aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-2 passes 9-0.
Thank you. Number 3 under new business is consideration of Memorandum 20-125 regarding an agreement between the City of Yankton and District 3 to assist with EDA funding procedures. Part A of that is an agreement for professional services contract with District 3 at a cost of $50,000, and then acceptance of our EDA funding, which stands at $6.4 million. What is your pleasure?
I'll move the memorandum. This is Mosier.
Benson, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Dwayne, anyone in the commission chambers who wishes to address the commission on this item?
We have no one appearing for public comments on this item.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who wishes to address the commission on this item?
There are no YouTube comments on this item.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
Okay, this is roll call on new business item 4-3. Mybom.
Mybom votes aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor's aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-3 passes 9-0.
Number 4 under new business is consideration of Memorandum 20-127 and Resolution 20-43 regarding CARES Act reimbursement for the City of Yankton and approval of the reimbursement agreement. Essentially, this authorizes the city manager to sign the agreement and other CARES Act documents. What is your pleasure?
Weber move.
Schramm, second.
We have a motion and a second. Amy, maybe this is a good time to update the commission on how that process is going.
So these 2 documents are the first steps in being able to apply for reimbursement. So we are limited to what we can be reimbursed for, and those are outlined by the state. Those types of expenditures are outlined by the state. The packet that was included in your information was updated yet today, so there's some slight changes. I'll get that to you all, and we'll talk more about that on the 27th. But basically, they're things that pertain to COVID-19 response. So sanitation supplies, construction supplies for reconfiguring buildings, PPE such as masks and gloves and those types of things. There are some wages that are eligible for reimbursement. Those are primarily for first responders, and then some of our administrative time would be as well eligible. So we have access to $3.3 million per the state's formula. We anticipate we'll be able to get close to that. So we're working now to compile all expenses and get information put together. These two documents will give us access to our portal so we can start applying for reimbursement. We may actually also have to have you all work to authorize a procurement procedure. We're not entirely sure yet, but that might be something that's coming on the 27th. We have until the end of the year to apply for reimbursement on expenditures. So, and we can have as many reimbursement requests as we'd like. So once we know we have all the documents put into place, we will actually start looking for that reimbursement. I will, before we get into budget here, indicate that when that reimbursement comes, we're going to have to do some supplementing in budgets, of course, because we wouldn't have anticipated those funds coming through. So as many of our budgets will be supplemented. You'll be asked to supplement those. And it will look when we enter into 2021 that we are going to carry forward a lot more in some of these funds than we have in previous years. That doesn't mean we can go on a spending spree, according to Al and Dwayne. They've told me that I can't just go and spend it. And we may have some great ideas. I think it would be prudent for us to watch carefully what happens here. We don't know the long-term economic impacts of this pandemic, and that could very well turn into our sustenance in the fall and winter months if things don't turn around here in our national economy and then locally. So I would like to make sure the commission understands and make sure the public understands that it's not a windfall of cash. We need to make sure that we are thinking about long-term here going forward when we do start getting reimbursement. So tonight, however, this is the agreements that the resolution that says I can sign the agreement and the understanding between the state and the city that this is for COVID-related response reimbursement, and we'll be working through that with District 3.
Amy, have you gotten any indication from the state as far as once we get our requests in, how long it might take them to process it? Is that just an unknown that the state can't really answer right now?
We haven't gotten that answer yet. However, I am aware that there have already been some entities that have made requests for reimbursement. I do not know if they've gotten their funds back yet or not. Part of that depends upon their cycle of their meetings. If their meetings fell close to when we got the documents, they were able to move forward a little quickly. But we should know. I think we're ready, probably in the very short future, to put in a first request. So it's not that we're going to need that money right away. So it's okay if there's a little lag time. But they know they have to get that out the door too before the end of the year. So I don't think that they'll drag their feet on it. I feel pretty comfortable that there'll be a quick turnaround.
Commissioners, any more discussion on this item? Dwayne, anyone in the commission chambers who wishes to?
We have no public comments at this time.
Thank you. And Dave, anyone on YouTube who wishes to address the commission?
There are no YouTube comments on this item.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on new business item 4-4. Minor.
Minor votes aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is I.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunig?
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom?
Mybom, aye.
Mybom is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-4 passes 9-0.
And with that, we've exhausted tonight's agenda, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Sarda moves to adjourn.
Minor seconds.
We've got a motion and a second. Al, roll call, please.
Okay, this is roll call on the adjournment. Mosier?
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm?
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Benson?
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunig?
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom?
Mybom, aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor?
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Weber?
Weber is I.
Weber is aye. And Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Motion to adjourn passes 9-0.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good week. Adios.